I'm here at Alpine's car launch in London, where the French team are the last to reveal their new challenger, the A523. Alpine have long held aspirations of competing at the very sharp end of Formula One. So will this be the car that allows them to do it? Well, they're coming off a 2022 season that was very respectable. There were no race wins or podiums last year, but they were consistent point scorers across the season. And they improved on their P5 placing in 2021, up to P4 in 2022, after beating rivals McLaren by 14 points to top the midfield. That result pleased CEO Laurent Rossi after the team endured what he described as a shambles at pre-season testing last year. They also suffered 2 DNFs in the first 2 races last season, while Fernando Alonso in particular suffered with reliability all year, failing to finish 5 times, including his final race for the team in Abu Dhabi. But when the cars did finish, they almost always finished in the points. So there was speed in the A522 when it was running smoothly. But while on track the results were respectable, it was off track where Alpine got themselves into a bit of a mess last year. The team brought Fernando Alonso back into F1 in 2021 after 2 years out of the sport, when then boss Cyril Abiteboul needed a big name signing to replace Daniel Ricciardo. Alonso soon proved he was still quick and as hungry as ever. His podium in Qatar in 2021 and his front row qualifying slot in Montreal the following year were testament to that. The Spaniard was keen for a new multi-year contract, but with Alpine still weighing up whether they wanted him long-term, Aston Martin pounced to snatch him away. And when Alonso announced in the summer that he was off to the British team, it seemed Alpine were caught on the hop. They responded by announcing their highly rated test driver, Oscar Piastri, would take Alonso's seat, only for the Australian to publicly deny that he would be racing with the team this year. It then emerged the former F3 and F2 champ wanted to join McLaren, which he duly did once the Contract Recognition Board had ruled in their favour and against Alpine's claim. Suddenly, Alpine went from having to choose between a 2-time champion and perhaps the most highly rated rookie on the market to having neither of them. They were forced to scramble to find a replacement, eventually settling on AlphaTauri's Pierre Gasly, who managed to negotiate his way out of his Red Bull contract a year early. So the 27-year-old will join his compatriot Esteban Ocon to form an all-French lineup at the French team this year. That initially raised some eyebrows in the paddock because of the two drivers' historically difficult relationship. Once best friends when they were racing in junior categories, they later had a falling out, though both have since insisted that all's behind them now as they team up in Alpine Blue this year. And on paper, it looks like a very decent driver lineup. Both have been consistent midfield point scorers since making the step up to Formula One, and of course both are already Grand Prix winners. Pierre Gasly took that unlikely home win for AlphaTauri at Monza in 2020, and Esteban Ocon triumphed for Alpine in the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. So will they be tasting the champagne again this year? Well, there's no doubt the team and the drivers want to break out of that midfield pack and into the top 3, but that is a huge task. As we mentioned, Fernando was frustrated by a string of mechanical failures last year, and the team needed to cut those out in 2023. But even so, they were outscored by third-place Mercedes by a massive 342 points last year. Now that is a huge number for the team to bridge over just one winter. Nonetheless, they should be helped by the sport's new sliding scale rules, which will give them more time in the wind tunnel than the 3 teams who finished ahead of them last time around. They also finally have some stability at the top, with team principal Otmar Szafnauer now having been in place for a year. The first time in 3 years they haven't had a change in senior management over the winter. And don't forget, this is a team with a rich history of competing for and winning championships in its previous Renault and Benetton days. Plus, they have the might of Renault behind them and the works engine that comes with it. And they have 2 hungry drivers who are both race winners and in theory are just about to enter their peak years. So this could be the year for Pierre, Esteban and Alpine.